How does Starlink's satellite internet work? If you are in a metropolis or a significant suburb, you likely benefit from rapid internet connections, possibly exceeding 1 gigabyte per second. Now, picture having to deal with daily internet rates of just 20 megabytes per second, or even 0.8 megabytes per second. Even worse, only 1 or 2 internet service providers are available in your area, leaving you with subpar service. Regrettably, this is the exact predicament where people worldwide and in the US find themselves. It may be profitable to install fiber in a city and offer gigabit speed to millions of users, but not so much in a rural location with only a few hundred residents. The SpaceX satellite internet system, Starlink, can deliver 150 megabytes per second internet rates to any place on Earth. The system started serving its first users in the fall of 2020, many stationed in isolated or rural parts of America. To put it mildly, the response was overwhelmingly positive. In this video, we will talk about how does Elon Musk's Starlink satellite internet work. Let's begin with the history of Starlinks. A satellite constellation system called Starlink, a project by SpaceX to build a global broadband network, uses LEO satellites to deliver high-speed internet access. Elon Musk created SpaceX, also known as Space Exploration Technologies Corp., in 2002. The Strategic Defense Initiative, which culminated in Brilliant Pebbles, which involved staging weapons in orbit for quick ballistic missile interceptions, first proposed constellations of low Earth orbit satellites in the middle of the 1980s. Seeing the promise for low-latency communication, multiple commercial mega-constellations using about 100 satellites, including Celestron, Teledesic, Iridium, and Globalstar, were created in the 1990s as a result of development offshoots. However, all organizations filed for bankruptcy when the dot-com bubble burst, partially due to the high launch costs. In its 2016 application to the Federal Communications Commission for Starlink licensing, SpaceX attested to the relationship, FCC. SpaceX registered Starlink as a trademark for their satellite broadband network in the United States. With the establishment of the SpaceX Satellite Development Facility in Redmond, Washington in January 2015, Starlink was made widely known. Musk said during the opening that there is still a sizable unmet demand for affordable internet capabilities on a global scale. To meet licensing requirements, the FCC determined in September 2017 that half of the constellation must be in orbit within 6 years, and the entire system must be in orbit within 9 years of the license's issuance. In May 2018, SpaceX projected that the constellation's development and expansion would cost nearly $10 billion. The Redmond segment of SpaceX's satellite development business was reorganized in the middle of 2018, and numerous senior management positions were eliminated. With the first launch of a sizable number of satellites into orbit scheduled for late 2019, SpaceX was shifting its satellite efforts from research and development to manufacturing. How does Starlink function? Starlink's satellite internet service technology has been around for a while. A satellite system sends radio signals over the void of space to transfer internet data. Starlink users recall from the satellites in the area after receiving signals from ground stations. The satellite weighs 573 pounds and has a flat body. The Falcon 9 rocket has room for 60 satellites. Starlink aims to build a low-latency space network to support edge computing on Earth. The CubeSats produce tight network coverage, are small satellites frequently utilized in LEO, and their low Earth orbit delivers low latency. The minimal theoretical round-trip latency for internet data via a geostationary satellite is 477 milliseconds between user and ground gateway. In reality, contemporary satellites have latencies of at least 600 milliseconds. Starlink satellites have more useful Earth-to-Sat latencies of about 25 to 35 milliseconds, equivalent to current cable and fiber networks because they orbit at 1105 to 130 of the height of geostationary orbits. The system would reportedly employ a peer-to-peer protocol simpler than IPv6 and will come standard with end-to-end encryption. Starlink satellites use Hall effect thrusters with krypton for orbit raising purposes. compared to a comparable electric propulsion system powered by xenon, krypton Hall thrusters often show substantially higher flow channel erosion, although krypton is far more available and costs less. According to SpaceX, its argon-fueled second-generation thruster has 1.5 times the specific impulse and 2.4 times the thrust of a krypton-fueled counterpart. Starship, a SpaceX rocket still in construction but with a significantly bigger payload capacity, is also intended to deliver Starlink satellites. Plans to simultaneously launch 400 Starlink version 1.0 satellites were included in the initial announcement. According to current projects, Starship will be the only launch vehicle utilized to send fewer, much larger Starlink version 2.0 into orbit. Wasn't that amusing? I've never imagined something like this. Subscribe to our channel Just Tech to enjoy amazing tech-related videos. Also, remember to like and share this video. Let's move on. How to use it. The first phased array antenna that is readily available commercially is Starlink. Everything you need to get online quickly, including your Starlink, Wi-Fi router, cables, and base, is included in your Starlink kit when it arrives. It can self-orient and connect in minutes with a clear sky view. Extreme temperatures, high humidity, hail, sleet, torrential rain, gale-force winds, and even rocket engines are no match for Starlink. The Starlink website will ask you for your address and inform you if satellite internet service is offered there. If not, the company will provide an estimated arrival date for Starlink. Since wait times have extended into early 2023, most customers will likely have to wait months, if not longer. Starlink now has over 400,000 users worldwide, but according to a February 2021 file SpaceX made with the FCC, hundreds of thousands of people in the US have joined up to test it out. For each coverage region, requests are likewise treated on a first-come, first-served basis. Hence, if there are currently a lot of Starlink users in your area, you'll need to wait for coverage to get better. Pre-ordering on the Starlink website with a $99 refundable deposit is required to secure a seat. The competitors. There are a few rivals to Starlink in the quest for space, including OneWeb, HughesNet, Viasat, and Amazon. Starlink uses a slightly different method than HughesNet, which has provided signal coverage from 22,000 miles above the Earth since 1996. Starlink uses thousands of small satellites instead of a few big ones. LEO satellites, which orbit the planet at only 300 miles above sea level, are operated by Starlink. This reduced geostationary orbit increases internet speeds and latency. The newest Starlink satellites contain laser communication components to send signals between satellites and lessen reliance on several ground stations. In the first quarter of 2022, Starlink recorded its fastest median download speed at 160 megabytes per second in Lithuania, according to a recent speed test by Ookla. Moreover, Starlink measured 91 megabytes per second in the United States, 97 megabytes per second in Canada, and 124 megabytes per second in Australia. The fastest satellite internet service in North America was Starlink in Mexico, with a median download speed of 105.91 megabytes per second. According to Speed Test, upload speeds in the United States have decreased by at least 33%, from 16.9 megabytes per second in the first quarter of 2021 to 9.33 megabytes per second in the second. How much does it cost? With a price rise, Starlink has a monthly cost of $110. The company will ship the Starlink satellite dish and Wi-Fi router to your house for an additional one-time charge of $599. Users in remote locations who have long complained about poor broadband have informed us that Starlink's rapid internet connection makes the price worth it, even though it is not cheap. Also, the business has launched a premium Starlink service, which provides quicker speeds and more reliable connections. Nevertheless, there is a monthly price of $500 and a one-time payment of $2,500 for the premium Starlink dish. SpaceX is promoting the service primarily to companies. However, Starlink has recently lowered prices, sometimes up to 50%, across Europe and Latin America. Starlink not only sets the standard for on-orbit debris abatement by meeting or exceeding all regulatory criteria, but also leads the sector in technologies to reduce satellite brightness. Please click the like button and share this video with your friends and family if you found it to be informative.